Hello and welcome to this Friday's episode of Sports Corner. We're in the heat of college basketball, and March Madness is all the sports world is talking about right now. I'm Cole Young, and I'll get right to it. Last Thursday, the official March Madness tournament began. To be honest, not a lot of madness has happened this March. Normally, a few unknown or very small schools upset a major program and make a deep run in the tournament. For the men, here's a look at the bracket so far to this point. Starting in the South, there were a few close calls and one upset as number 10 New Mexico upset number 7 Marquette. But their Cinderella story would stop there, as the Lobos would fall short to Michigan State in the next round. The top 3 seeds, Auburn, Michigan State, and Iowa State, all cruised through the first round, but Iowa State was upset by number 6 Ole Miss in the second round. Auburn, Michigan, Ole Miss, and Michigan State represent the South region in the Sweet 16. In the East, Duke started out the tournament as a clear frontrunner as they had breezed past their opponents in the first 2 rounds. The biggest shock in this region was number 3 Wisconsin falling to number 6 BYU in the second round. But other than that, this region is pretty clear-cut, so there isn't much drama to report. Duke, Arizona, BYU, and Alabama made their way to the Sweet 16. Heading out west, this region had the most excitement. Top-seeded Florida began this tournament as a heavy favorite to be crowned national champions. They did cruise in the first round, but faced a close call in round 2 as number 8 UConn almost pulled off the upset. The talk of this region was number 12 Colorado State as they upset Memphis in the first round, but lost in absolutely heartbreaking fashion in round 2. The 4th-seeded Maryland Terrapins stunned Colorado State on a buzzer-beating floater from Derek Queen on Sunday to secure a 72-71 thriller and advance to the Sweet 16. Number 11 Drake turned some heads as they upset number 6 Missouri, but ultimately would be eliminated in the second round by number 3 Texas Tech. And lastly, the lowest remaining seed heading into yesterday was number 10 Arkansas. Led by legendary coach John Calipari, the Razorbacks upset Blue Blood Kansas and then number 2 ranked St. John's to punch their ticket into the Sweet 16 for a matchup with Texas Tech. So, as mentioned, Florida, Maryland, Texas Tech, and Arkansas represent the West in the Sweet 16. Lastly, in the Midwest, number 12 McNeese State was the talk of the town as they upset number 5 Clemson in the first round. They battled with Purdue in round 2, only to fall just short of a victory. Other than that, this region saw the top 4 seeds take the top 4 spots, so it wasn't all that exciting. Houston, Purdue, Kentucky, and Tennessee made it to the Sweet 16 for the Midwest. Yesterday, the first 4 Sweet 16 games tipped off for the East and West regions. Alabama, Duke, Florida, Texas Tech have all won their Sweet 16 matchups and have punched their tickets to the Elite 8, which begins tomorrow. The Midwest and South regions will play their games today at 4, 4:30, 6:30, and 7 p.m. tonight. For the women's bracket, it's pretty much of the same. In the first round, only 4 teams, Oregon, Indiana, Mississippi State, and South Dakota State, entered the first games as underdogs and upset their opponents in the first round. That means 60 out of 64 favorites won the first round games. In the next round, it got a little bit more interesting as 3 number 5 seeds eliminated the 4 seeds. So that means the lowest ranking teams entering the Sweet 16 are all number 5 seeds, which isn't all that low of a ranking. All this means is that the good teams are very good this year. One of the top favorites to win the tournament this year was number 1 USC. The Trojans dominated round 1, pulling out a whopping 71-25 win in round 1. Strangely enough, the 46-point margin of victory was only the 3rd largest in round 1, as Notre Dame won by 52 points and number 2 UConn beat number 15 Arkansas State 103-34. Anyway, back to USC. They again rolled through the second round, beating Mississippi State 96-59. However, USC lost their star player early in the game as Juju Watkins went down with a season-ending knee injury 5 minutes into Monday night's game. USC showed how deep their bench is after still pulling out the victory, but it'll be a test for them going forward without Watkins. The first 4 Sweet 16 games will be played today, with the remaining games this round finishing up tomorrow. Don't miss out on either the men's or women's games this weekend, as there are only a few games left in both brackets before we reach the national championship stage. Another collegiate sport has adopted their own version of March Madness. The 2025 NCAA men's hockey tournament is set, with the 16-team bracket in place, and all roads are leading to what they are calling the Frozen Four in St. Louis. The winners of the 6 conference tournaments won automatic NCAA berths, while the top 10 at-large teams rounded out the rest of the field. Boston College, the overall number 1 seed, Big Ten champion Michigan State, Hockey East champ Maine, and NCHC champion Western Michigan all earned the top spots. Denver, last year's national champion, will defend its title as the number 3 seed, while UConn and Bentley are in the NCAA tournament for the first time. The first 4 games began yesterday, with the next 4 continuing today. The next rounds will be tomorrow and Sunday, all leading up to the national championship on April 12th. While these collegiate seasons are coming to an end, one of the major 4 sports is just beginning. This week is finally MLB opening day. Yesterday, 28 of 30 MLB teams played in 14 opening day games, with the Milwaukee Brewers and New York Yankees kicking off the season. The Angels began their season with a road game with the White Sox, the Padres opened their season at home hosting the Atlanta Braves, and although the Dodgers technically began their season last week with a 2-game stretch in Japan, their first games of the season in the continental United States began with a home series against the Detroit Tigers. The Angels immediately head to St. Louis following their stint in Chicago, so their first home game in Anaheim won't be until next Friday when they host the Cleveland Guardians. Baseball season is officially here, so don't miss out on any games and try to head to see some in person if you can. Last week, I talked about the drama surrounding the first Formula One race of the season. Somehow, the second race was even more dramatic. Oscar Piastri cruised to victory at the Chinese Grand Prix last Saturday as McLaren completed a dominant 1-2 performance. Piastri was relatively unchallenged all race as he took his first win of the season. His McLaren teammate, Lando Norris, was in close pursuit for the majority of the distance, earning him the second place spot on the podium. George Russell finished on the podium for the second consecutive week for Mercedes in third place, while Max Verstappen would finish fourth. All that went smoothly, but the drama came after the race. Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly were both disqualified from the Chinese Grand Prix after their respective Ferrari and Alpine cars were found to be underweight in a post-race check. Leclerc finished the race in 5th position while Gasly crossed the line at 11th. However, there was another twist for Leclerc's Ferrari teammate Lewis Hamilton, who was also disqualified after the car was deemed to have a part under the required size. So, after a full race, Ferrari had both cars disqualified and gained 0 points. Like I said, this season is already off to a wild start, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out down the road. The next Formula One race will be next weekend in Japan. To close the show, a major NFL story broke just Tuesday afternoon. The New York Giants reached an agreement with Super Bowl winning quarterback Russell Wilson on a 1-year deal worth up to $21 million, including $10.5 million guaranteed. To bring you up to speed, Wilson had an incredibly successful career with the Seattle Seahawks, where he led the team to 2 Super Bowls and 1 Super Bowl win, as well as breaking all kinds of Seahawks records. After a blockbuster trade in 2022, Wilson spent 2 seasons with the Denver Broncos, who signed him to a 5-year, $242.6 million deal after acquiring him in a massive trade with the Seahawks. But the Broncos went just 11-19 during Wilson's tenure and didn't make the playoffs, and he was released by the team last March. Wilson then signed a 1-year contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers last offseason. After early success, the Steelers ended the 2024 season on a 5-game losing streak. Wilson threw only 6 touchdown passes, turned the ball over 4 times, and took 18 sacks in that stretch. He also finished the season with a 6-5 record as the starter, with just 16 touchdown passes to 5 interceptions. He was sacked a staggering 33 times throughout the season. Safe to say, it appears Wilson is past the prime of his career, but with a ton of young talent in New York, he could find a career rejuvenation. This move also is the final domino to fall in the Aaron Rodgers saga, so now the world waits to see where he will sign once the Giants are off the table. Only time will tell. The NHL and NBA playoffs are just on the horizon, baseball is officially back, and the men's and women's college basketball national championships are quickly arriving. All this to say, it's a great time in sports. As always, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Sports Corner. Come right back next week for more news, updates, and highlights. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.